So for the last about 7 to 10 days, we've had tremendous growth out here in the garden just because of the really hot weather, and things have kind of blown up in terms of how quickly things are growing, plus how much fruit I'm getting or vegetables I'm getting from the garden. Now I know I promised to provide some how-to grow videos such as the basil and the dill and the zucchini, but I've been extremely busy, so I apologize for that. Between working from home and running some errands and putting in a new deck in the backyard, plus prepping for painting, just haven't had time. The garden takes me a lot of time as it is, and then I have all these other summer tasks to do. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to get at least one of these how-to videos up per week if I can manage it. I've got to make some notes to make sure that I don't forget about it. But today I wanted to do a quick walkthrough on the garden just because of how much growth I've been getting over the last 7 to 10 days. And then on top of that, been doing some cleanup and a little bit of organization in the garden here. And so let me do a walkthrough. Done some organizing a little bit, getting a little bit neater and a little bit tighter. And then on top of that, done a lot of work in terms of getting the starters that were already planted from seed and getting them to work a little bit better in terms of giving them a little more sunshine through the day and getting into the containers to be a little more organized. So I'll give you a brief overview. I went through here last night actually when it got cool enough. Even at 9, 10 o'clock, it was still too warm out here. And so what I did was I waited until probably about 10:30 and I came out here and then did a little organization. I kind of used my hiker's light that you can affix onto a stick or onto your head. And I came out here and just did some organizing. I took out all the peas. As you can see, it's actually overfilling the bin here. Basically, with all the heat we've been getting, they've just been kind of toasting away. Yeah, I could have gone ahead and kept the peas, sugar peas and snow peas a little bit longer. They would have produced some more because we have greener leaves down below and in the middle portion here. But in terms of about 60 to 70% of it was kind of being toasted away. It just didn't really make sense to keep it in the garden, especially since I needed the space. If I didn't need the space, I would have gone ahead and let them continue to grow. But I cleaned off the 3 spots with the peas, the sugar peas, snow peas, snap peas, and used them to get my garden a little bit organized. And so they're perfectly in better, cleaner rows, easier to manage, easier to spray, easier to kind of go through each aisle, every row, and be able to harvest. And then on top of that, be a little organized in terms of being able to know where everything's at. And so here's a kind of brief overview of what it looks like right now. Currently right now I was short on room, so I went ahead and set up additional growing containers here on the street here, right up to the curb. I know we're supposed to park a car no more than a foot off the curb, and I'm not even sure if this is legal for me to be having these containers actually sitting on the street. Hopefully the police don't come by and knock on the door and ask me to bring them back a little bit further into my own yard because I needed the space. And so starting off here in the back, I went ahead and put the rest of the tomato seedlings that I had started. Tomatoes are coming in. I've already harvested a few. Mostly it's the cherry tomatoes. The big boys and the beefsteak tomatoes have not come in yet. I did start them a little bit later. But in terms of foliage, look how extensive that is on the tomatoes. And so a lot of them are flowering already, and so getting a lot of flowers within the tomatoes. And so I'll be getting them developing here very shortly. But basically this whole back area here off to the right, yes, I did go ahead and put some containers and tomato plants here on the far right back where it gets basically shade in the morning. I just didn't have any additional space and I didn't want to cram everything. I do tend to like to have uniform rows and areas where I can walk or go ahead and place or plant um, um, additional water buckets and other things and tools. And so I decided to go ahead and, yeah, as much as I would love to have these tomatoes get full sunshine throughout the whole entire day, including early morning, I just needed the space. So I went ahead and planted these about 7, 8 back here. And so as you can see, it's in the shade right now. It's not getting much sunshine in the morning like these ones here. These ones, look how great they're growing, right? But the reason why they're growing so great is because they're getting sunshine first thing in the morning and throughout the day. These ones back here, I know won't grow as quickly and as well just because it gets shade for a good chunk of the morning. And then as you can see, as we progress into more of the sunlight, these ones are getting it. And so you can see the difference between these two. These two were planted exactly the same time. Look how much growth I have in that one that gets the morning sunshine and it gets the same amount of afternoon sunshine. And then look at this one here that's just about 2 feet, and of course it's in the shaded area. The amount of foliage here and the amount of foliage here is quite a bit different. If I didn't tell you otherwise, you wouldn't know that that it was planted at the same time. Now, here's the Asian pear tree, the foreign one. I'll be honest, I've had a lot of problems this year on it. I went ahead and put the tape guard on. It should have been done earlier because I was having ant problems. I mean, I wasn't having a lot of ants, but ants carry a lot of diseases. Plus, if they go ahead and they see aphids on the trees, which I did have under the bottom of the leaves, they go ahead and do their thing and they cause a lot of diseases to pass on. I've had a lot of problems with the leaves on here. Now, pear trees are very tender leaves, and especially the new ones, the bugs like to eat on them, chew on them. But I've had all sorts of orange spots, black spots, leaf curl, I mean all sorts of problems on this pear tree. It's been a lot of work. I'm going to need to spray it today, so that'll be one of my to-do tasks. In terms of the growth, it's doing really good, right? So I'm about 5'4", 5'5", and this tree is basically hovering over 7 feet now, and so it's doing really well. It's not the problem is not the growth itself. Getting plenty of growth from the pear tree. It's grown more than 3 feet this year, but the problem really is the leaves that are susceptible to diseases and fungus. Has some major issues with bugs. I've sprayed it a number of times with neem oil. It's been over a week. I probably need to spray it again. I can see some spots and other things going on, so that's something I'll work on. Very, very pleased with the Meyer lemon tree. This one here, they call it the Meyer lemon bush, and the leaves are absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to get a little bit closer. Look how healthy they are. Unlike the pear leaves, which just never look very healthy. Plus, there's a lot of bites and markings and just unhealthy looking. The Meyer lemon bush here, whether the leaves are mature or nice and tender and new, they just look absolutely beautiful. And I'm getting a lot of growth and a lot of foliage on here. It's a very healthy Meyer lemon bush. Now, in terms of the Meyer lemon tree itself, looking pretty good here. The lemons are coming in perfectly. I only kept the 2 just because I wanted it to work on growing the foliage. But even the foliage on here, the Meyer lemon tree, look how beautiful those leaves are. Nice and healthy. Very, very good looking. And so very, very pleased with the new growth. And I'll probably hit it with a little bit of fertilizer here very shortly. Once this lemon's about done, I'll hit it with a little bit of fertilizer. Of course, I'll hit it with the citric tree specific fertilizer. Corn's coming in really well. You can see how much it's grown even in the last 7 to 10 days. The ears of corn are producing, so here they are, right? So it self-fertilizes, and the ears of corn are coming in, so you can see the sheath there. And so they're coming in. Now my corn tends to be a little bit smaller in the hydroponic growth side. I'm gonna be, not always, oh, here's a damn beetle. Let me squash this sucker. Ugh, gooey. So every time I see beetles, I kill them because they're terrible for my garden, especially with the type of vegetables I have. Plus, unfortunately, the type of things I grow, they're more susceptible to arriving into my garden. Yeah, here's that cabbage. I haven't got around to eating it. I've just been really busy. So I've been only eating the zucchini, the cucumbers, and the peas. But I really do need to harvest this. These are the last of my seedlings. And as you can see, they're pretty big. Yes, they needed to be transplanted a long time ago. I had a number of people said they wanted some seedlings and some plants, and of course they never picked them up, or they forgot about it, or they told me after I kind of hounded them for 2-3 weeks. They finally came back to me after 2-3 weeks of me asking them for 2-3-4 times that, hey, your plants are ready to pick up. I have them in a box. They're outside. They're on the trunk of the car, and they're like, you know what? I'm sorry, but the garden thing isn't going to happen. I just can't get it up and running, and I understand it. You know, initially we all think of having a garden, it's going to be great, but then we get tied up with work, with our kids. We have to, you know, travel. Most places are opening up, and we're trying to get out and do other things. Plus, the commitment and prep involved in having a garden can be pretty intense, and so I can understand why people, you know, initially they have good thoughts, and then it becomes, hey, I actually can't get this to work. Now let's take a look at my pepper plants. These were the early season ones, right? So pepper plants are coming in. Actually, here's green pepper right now, right? Can you guys see that? Sorry about the shade here. I'm trying to get a better angle. So green peppers are coming in. I grew a bunch of green peppers. Did a horrible job this year of labeling. I went ahead and mixed up some of the pepper plants in the containers. I had them separated in containers when they were growing from seed, and then as some sprouted, some didn't. Some I went ahead and threw away, or some, you know, looked unhealthy, and I just got rid of them. I ended up losing the labels on some of them too after watering. And so although I kept most of them together, for example, like I think these are all green bell peppers, there are a few that got mixed matched, and so it's kind of like a wait and see game to see exactly what pops up. But here are the green peppers. I believe if everything works out pretty well, the most peppers I'm going to have are the green peppers. Then I have yellow peppers and red peppers and orange peppers, and then I have those sweet mini peppers for snacking. And then I have of course, as always, I have the jalapenos for salsa and pico de gallo, along with I have a number of the giant poblano peppers, and so those will be coming in. This row right here is a row of tomatoes. I think I have 3 distinct rows of tomatoes. These are some of the big boys and the Romas. They're just starting to come in right now. I had some that planted really early in the season, and just for spacing purposes, I went ahead and put them in the back. So the tomatoes that I've been harvesting are really the ones that are here in the back. And these are the Tiny Tims and the cherry tomatoes. I've harvested a few out of this one here already, and I wish I had left some on so you guys could have saw how nice they were. But yeah, I've been picking them off of these ones here. I don't see any available right now. But these ones here are full of flowers. They're kind of coming in here. Sorry, it's hard to get into there. And so they're growing pretty well. I have some back here. This one here had this tree These plants here really struggled during the heat wave. When we had the 100, 102, 106, and 109 back-to-back-to-back days, this plant, as you can tell, really struggled. There's one thing nice is new foliage is coming on here. So that's a good sign, but look at that. And that was all because of the heat wave. It really struggled. See the ones on the tops here? They went ahead and there's new foliage here, but it's really struggled to survive with that heat wave. I've got to come through here and definitely have to weed through here. Now with tomatoes, you're supposed to go ahead and pinch off the suckers and trim it down a little bit. Keep the centers a little bit more open. You don't need all the branches in the center, and so you need to kind of cut them away so that way there's good airflow. The reason why people get diseases and fungus on their tomatoes is because they're not doing the proper trimming. So the first and foremost thing, of course, we want to do is go through here and pinch off all the suckers. And so those are the in-between branches. So like when you're looking at the Y here, this one right here is a perfect example. When you look here in between the Y, we get this little branch here. And these have actually no purpose for the tree. And so you should probably come through here and just pinch them off. And so you see how I cut that off. Now, notice how the center of this area is a little bit dense. I really should be coming through here, regardless if there's flowers on the branches. I don't want to cut too deep into the main stem. I want to go ahead and do secondary and third side shoots. But I really do need to come in here and just chop a few back and allow good airflow. Now, these two rows that you're looking at, left side is the tomatoes, the right side are the peppers, and then after that is the zucchini, the squash. And so if you can see the view here, look how much it's grown. This is part of the main reason why I wanted to kind of shoot this video today. The squash has really taken off. They absolutely love the hot weather. I've had to come through here, and basically with the squash, I have to check on these containers at least one extra time throughout the day, just because they're heavy feeders of water. And especially the containers that have a lot of zucchini growing, a lot of squash growing, they will suck up this water. I think it's 26 quart containers. And I usually fill them to the brim late at night. And I'll come in here in the morning, and even with no sunshine and just kind of resting at night, I'll come back through here and they'll be, at least half empty. And then after I fill it up in the morning, the 26 quarts of solution inside here, by the time I get out here midday, sometime after lunch, especially on a hot sunny day like what it will be today, it's amazing how much water is gone and how empty the reservoir is. But a lot of zucchini coming through here. Take a look here. The reservoir here is about, I would say it's about 60%. And so I'll come through here and fill it up as soon as I'm done with this video. But take a look at this one here. I don't know how much water's left. Oh, this thing's completely empty. The reservoir here is very, very low. I lifted it up and I could tell from the feel this container is just moving because there's no water in here to hold it upright. I got to get some water in here pronto. But take a look at how beautiful this zucchini is, right? And look at how much zucchini I have. I mean, it's just full in here. Now I'm hitting this zucchini along with any tomatoes that are producing. I'm hitting them with that extra shot of CalMag. I did the video of getting the calcium and iron extra boosted up in tomatoes and in zucchinis. Any type of vegetables that are more likely to get blossom end rot, where it starts rotting from the end because it doesn't get enough calcium, magnesium, iron. I went ahead and I mixed that into my watering so that way it doesn't start forming blossom end rot, because when you start producing your vegetables on plants, and especially like this one here where there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 zucchinis growing on here with additional flowers starting to already flower some more additional growth. With over, looks like over 12. There's about 12 to 16 zucchinis on here. That's taking up a lot of nutrients from the container, and you've got to hit it with additional nutrients, or it's going to start forming blossom end rot on the vegetable portion. And so when I come back here in about 30 minutes, I'm going to come back through here, and when I water, I'm going to go ahead and mix in some CalMag solution into these into the mix when I will go ahead and water the zucchini, because it obviously is producing quite heavily right now, and they're such heavy feeders that in order to not get the blossom end rot, I've got to give it additional nutrients. And yes, going back to here, notice how I'm getting a little bit of powdery mildew. The reason for that here in the Pacific Northwest is in the early morning, we do have a little bit of dew in the morning, and it's getting a little bit of powdery mildew. It's not a huge problem yet, but it's something you want to stay on top of. So I'm going to come through here, and because I've got to go ahead and spray this pear tree down, I'm going to go ahead, and while I spray the pear tree, I'm going to go ahead and spray all the squash through this row and hit it with the neem oil. So that way we can kind of slowly halt the powdery mildew that's growing on a couple of these plants. It looks like out of the 8 plants in this row, only 2 have powdery mildew, and it's not really bad, but it's something you want to just stay on top of. And so I'm going to have to come through here. I'll do the watering first. Very busy day today. I'll come through here, do a little cleanup, pick anything that needs to be picked. I'll water the plants. I'll come through here, hit it with neem oil on the things that need to be hit with neem oil. And then I got to get started on the deck in the back. It's something I work on a little bit at a time. But I want to get that deck finished because I got to start the painting here on the house. So as you know, I've got a number of tasks to do on a daily basis. So there's just basically not enough hours in the day for me to get everything done. Here is the cucumbers. I'm picking cucumbers on a daily basis. I actually have a lot of cucumbers on here that need to be picked. Honestly, I didn't grow as many cucumbers this year as last year. Last year was a little ridiculous. I grew way too many. So take a look at those sizes of those cucumbers back there. Hold on here. Let me see if I can give you a better shot. So, got a lot of cucumbers back there. I got a huge one back there. Yeah, that one really needs to be picked. It's actually getting too big, waterlogged. But I got a ton of cucumbers through here. So I need to come through here and harvest these cucumbers. Getting way more than I can eat. That's why the one in the back there has gotten way too big. But with both of these plants producing so many cucumbers, these are those ones right here. That one right there, perfect size for pickling cucumbers. The problem is I have over 20 jars of pickles from last year. So that was part of the reason why I didn't go ahead and plant too many cucumbers this year. But yeah, look at those. I got lots of cucumbers. Maybe today will be a cucumber salad for lunch. Oh man, there's some more even back there. So come through here. I'll pick the additional cucumbers. I've got to take care of some of these cucumbers here too. I've got to go ahead and move these containers, get them a little more organized. I'll do that a little bit later. Here's the green beans. I actually noticed there's some green beans to harvest here on the left side. I grew them in 2 cycles when I first planted the seedlings. For whatever reason, I couldn't find the seeds, all of them, and so I planted the ones out of one container, and these are the 4 buckets that had the green beans first. And these ones here are growing pretty well. Bush variety, kind of growing them in compact style. I've got to come through here and take a look to see exactly if there's any beans for me to harvest. And then I'll come through here, especially in the additional tomato row. They're heavy feeders of water, and so I filled them up last night. I'll check these with zucchini, cucumber, squash, tomatoes. I'll come through here and I'll check the kind of the water levels of these because they'll tend to suck up water pretty quickly. Then I got the tomatoes here that are started, that got retransplanted this past week. I've got to come through here and make sure the reservoir is full. I want to make sure that the roots are touching the water source. The dill, cilantro is looking pretty good. This one here, left it out in the full sun, didn't bother to cover it or put it in afternoon shade. You know, this is what happens when you're just too busy with other tasks, and plus I'm spending already quite a few hours per day taking care of this garden, but I need to go ahead and probably go through here on a daily basis and do the must-do things first, and then go back and do the watering and maintenance things later on. Oh yeah, and so here's the last of the bean seedlings. I've looked at the roots down below. They really need to get into the ground. When they start flowering and they haven't grown too much, that tells you that they really needed to be transplanted a long time ago. So that'll be a must-do task today. That's one of the many must-do tasks. Same thing here. These cucumbers have been sitting in these containers. There was actually a whole bunch of flowers yesterday. They started already wilting, but yeah, they needed to go into their final resting home a long time ago. So, oh shoot, stepped on something. So I still need to come through here and take care of that. As you can see, I had to find every little space available. So there's 4 additional tomato plants. You can tell from the foliage it's pretty healthy. I probably need to go through here and water those tomato plants. I'm sure it's really sucked up the water. Here's additional cabbage. The Copenhagen cabbage that I grew. They're more than ready to harvest right now. I just have so much to eat right now that I haven't had time to come through here and cut them off. This row right here, along with additional seedlings I have on top of the car, is the eggplant. I started them a bit later. I got a specific eggplant variety I like. I like the Asian eggplant. And the seeds didn't come in very early, so I've had to go through here and take care of that. And so I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of them together. And what I'll do is I'll get them kind of organized a little bit in nice, neat rows. I went ahead and prepped the containers here. I have additional hydroponic coolers, basically these cheap old styrofoam coolers. Insulate them with plastic bags inside because they do leak. Love styrofoam in terms of it being able to be a good source for hydroponics, but in terms of the quality of a styrofoam, we just haven't been able to invent a styrofoam that doesn't leak. And so if you put water in a styrofoam cooler, by the time you come back at the end of the night, come back in the morning, all the water has already leaked out of styrofoam, which is terrible. So I have to go ahead and I bag it twice just to make sure that it doesn't leak the water out after I get up in the morning. Now here's additional pepper plants that need to be transplanted. Look how tall these boys are. I mean, they needed to be transplanted back into their home a long time ago. So that's one of my another to-do tasks today. Sunday's supposed to be a nice, relaxing, easy day, but it's going to be about an 8 to 12 hour day. I've got to come through here and get them transplanted back into the final resting home. And then I had to reorganize the rest of the squash, the zucchini. I wanted to get as much sun as possible because squash and peppers like a lot of sun, but especially with squash, in order to form the vegetable portion, they really like a lot of sun. And so this one here gets the morning sun and the good afternoon sun. It's a good spot in the garden here. It's a little bit bumpy, but I can go ahead and space the containers out. I have to give it more space. I don't want to overcrowd it. If a few leaves touch, that's okay, but I wanted to get it so I could kind of go in between the rows and kind of navigate through here. And so this part of the left side of the garden area, the front yard, is pretty good in terms of where to put the rest of the zucchini. And then after coming through here and doing some watering, I'm going to go ahead and take care of kind of some of the weeding issues here. Things got a little out of control over here with the herb garden. So I put down my makeshift area here where go ahead and get that grass to cut and it could basically come down. I really need to come through here and chop it down, but I just went ahead and laid cardboard on here. I'll put stuff on top of there. But got the oregano, got the mint. Here's the cilantro that's actually going to seed right there. And so this one here got busy as usual and left it in the afternoon sun, and we had really hot weather, and it went ahead and ended up bolting into flowers very quickly and going into seed. But I guess I have just more seed to work with. Here's the mint. I actually used it as garnish for homemade creme brulee, and I have a great recipe for creme brulee that is easy to make, and you can make it in the oven, and just only a few steps involved and a few ingredients. And then I used this little mint as a top of a garnish, and then two very thin slices of strawberry. But I'll go ahead and actually maybe post a video on how to make this creme brulee. That's very easy to make. Here are the rest of the sugar peas, snow peas. As you can see, leaves are kind of burnt away. Got a lot of peas here, a lot of peas over here. I really need to get through here and harvest them. The problem is that I have 12 bowls of peas in my refrigerator, my spare refrigerator out in the garage that I haven't eaten. And then I have 2 more bowls that I picked yesterday that that I haven't cleaned and cut. I mean, I basically pulled them from the from this big old mess, and I haven't even cleaned them or kind of sifted through them and trimmed them and cleaned them. And so obviously I'm not getting to a lot of tasks, so need to go ahead and get through those things today. And then here are my onions. I actually went ahead and, I don't know if you remember, but I had a bunch in this bowl here. I went ahead and took those and actually used them for cooking. So whenever I need onions, I just kind of come out here and harvest. Here is the oregano. Further onions here. Some of these bulbs are getting really big, especially that one in the back there. That's pretty big. Apple tree's doing fine. It's sucking up a lot of water. It needs to be watered pretty much every day actually. And on the really hot days, I actually end up having to water twice. The foliage looks good. I do notice it does help to hit it with neem oil, but it actually is looking really, really healthy. Had some earlier problems with aphids on the newer leaves, but I noticed as soon as I hit it with neem oil, it really does well for about 10 days. Once we get to about 2 weeks, and the aphids start appearing on the bottom side of the leaves, and especially the newer tender leaves tend to get them, and then they leave a lot of markings. And so I really need to go ahead and really I should have put a tape barrier at the bottom of this root. I didn't, but I really need to come through here and do that. Now, of course, the goal is to probably do that today, but my to-do list is so long, I'm not sure if I'll get to that, but it'll be in the back of my mind. Little mini peppers coming in here. So let me see if I can give you a little shot here. So looking pretty good here. This tree was looking a little unhealthy, had a transplant shock, plus it didn't help that I left it out of water for a whole evening. So the hydroponic cooler tipped over, and the roots were out of water for the whole entire night and didn't realize it until the morning when I came out here. And so leaves started turning colors and dying. And so I've been trying to get this to come back, but as you can see, Number of new flowers coming in, so looking not too shabby in terms of it coming back and flowering. Looks pretty good. Now the Sesame orange tree, weirdest thing on this one, ever since I pinched off there must have been over 100 flowers on here. I pinched them all off so that way I can let it work on the root system. But I think when I went from the container and planted it into the ground, I wanted to hurry up and plant it into the ground because I just didn't want to deal with another fruit tree, regardless of whether or not it's a dwarf. I just didn't want to deal with another fruit tree inside of the house in the wintertime. The less I have to do in the wintertime in the house, the more happy I am and the happier I am. And I went ahead and planted it outdoors. And as soon as I planted it outdoors, I guess with the transplant shock and other things, it just didn't do well. And I mean, it did all right, but what I mean is it didn't grow much this year. I'm just finally already midway into the summer getting new foliage that looks pretty healthy, right? So the leaves look really, really well, and it's finally coming in. But in terms of like how much it's grown, very, very small Sesame orange tree. So it looks like it's fine. It's just not very big. Now going through the lettuce patch, I came through here day before yesterday and chopped back all the lettuce, as you can see. Now I still have the lettuce left over. About a third of it still hasn't been eaten. It's probably something I probably should eat this morning. But yeah, this is all the lettuce I want to grow now. I'm kind of lettuced out after growing so much lettuce early in the season. And that's more than enough lettuce for me these days. Plus I got other things to eat. Now here is one of the new things that I set up. Here is the basil, and this one is specifically the lettuce leaf basil. It's not a strong tasting basil, perfect for lettuce wraps or salads, which is what I use it for. And I put it in its final resting home in the hydroponic coolers. But I cover the leaves because I noticed that when the leaves are newer and just, new sets of leaves are coming out, they're very susceptible to insects and bugs eating the leaves. And since we like the leaves ourselves, it's a good idea for me to cover these leaves so that way they're nice and healthy and I'm eating them, not the bugs. Now, I went ahead and when I organized my growing space out here, right, to make it more even, to give it some uniformity, give it some structure, allow me to have distinct rows and walkways. When I did that, I had to move the remaining seedlings that need to be transplanted. Basically, everything here needs to be replanted into its final resting home. But when you have just hours and hours of to-do tasks on a daily basis, these are kind of the last things to be dealt with. But definitely I need to get through here and take care of this. Now here are in the 3 aluminum cans, those are actually cantaloupe, and they do need to get into a final resting home. You can tell that little flower buds are forming, which means the cantaloupe is on the way. I really need to get this in its final resting home. And so I'll probably do that whenever I get a chance, no later than the next 3 days. So either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, I've got to get them into its final resting home. And then this additional eggplant, it's going to do much, much better if I get them transplanted into final resting home. I've just been busy. And so these are way too big. This eggplant really needs to go somewhere. So it's another to-do tasks. These tomatoes, these tiny Tims, the reason why they're struggling now, they were looking beautiful before, now they're struggling, is because they're still in the friggin' Jiffy Pete pellets. They've been growing way too long. The roots down there are getting damaged in the heat. I don't like to have them soaking in water either, but you're kind of in a bad mix when you've let things grow too much and they haven't been transplanted in an appropriate size. And so they're still sitting in the Jiffy Pete pellets after all these weeks. And so that's another problem, right? So I need to get them into its final resting home, let the roots kind of spread out and grow. So that'll be another thing I got to get done. So that right there, my friends, is a brief overview of the new layout in the yard. And so squash here in the 3 rows, I'm sorry. So 1, 2, 3 rows there. Then I got the row of peppers. They're kind of pushed together right now, but they need to be spread out as soon as the leaves come in. Basically, it's easier for me to water in a more narrow spot, so that's why I kind of have them jam-packed in there. Once they start growing, I'll go ahead and pull them apart a little bit. These tomatoes are kind of out of place. I'll put them somewhere else. I'm not sure where. And then here are the eggplants right there. Then we got the row of tomatoes. And I already know without even looking, with as much foliage I have in these tomato plants, they need to go ahead and be watered this morning. I watered them last night at maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I don't know, it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning. And I know they're probably dry, so I need to come through here and water them. All these buckets right here you see, all of them are already filled with water solution, fertilizer solution. And so they're ready to put into all these containers to basically feed and water my plants. Here are all my green beans, and then the ones over there are the ones that need to be transplanted. I figured I wasn't getting to them, and it was kind of hindering the growth of these beans. So I set up the coolers and prepped them last night, and they definitely is a to-do task. I kind of basically forced myself by prepping it and putting it in the way to make sure that I get it done. My cucumbers, not growing nearly as many this year, but I showed you the 2 cucumber plants over here, containers. There are so many cucumbers in there. Need to have a cucumber salad for lunch. And then here are the zucchini. Gonna hit it with a CalMag solution with iron. And I need to go through here and water it because they're kind of dry. And the rest of these back here are going to be the tomatoes and peppers. So that's a little bit of brief overview of the garden here after about 7 to 10 days from the last time I shot a video. I'll be back in touch shortly. I'll try to do the how to grow videos with the basil, dill, and squash. And if you have any further questions, always shoot me up and I'll reply to you as soon as possible. Take care and have a great weekend.